"Watch your step, you worthless old man," snarled the thug biker. He shoved 84-year-old veteran Sam Carver onto the icy sidewalk of Bozeman, Montana. Just 30 minutes later, a Black Hawk roared in. It touched down outside the Iron Horse Bar, shaking the entire town. All right, my dear viewers, prepare yourselves for a story that will leave you speechless. Take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly resonate with what I'm sharing here. And drop a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see someone joining us from all corners of the world. "Watch your step, you worthless old man," snarled the thug biker. He shoved 84-year-old veteran Sam Carver onto the icy sidewalk of Bozeman, Montana. Just 30 minutes later, a Black Hawk roared in. It touched down outside the Iron Horse Bar, shaking the entire town. All right, my dear viewers, prepare yourselves for a story that will leave you speechless. Take a second to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly resonate with what I'm sharing here. And drop a comment below to let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always exciting to see someone joining us from all corners of the world. Beneath his threadbare coat, Sam Carver's body curled in pain. His hip throbbed as if pierced by a blade. His knee went numb, and the palm of his hand burned where the skin had split. Yet it was not the physical agony that consumed him. What flared up inside was fury, no shallow, clamorous rage, but a slow-burning fire, silent and relentless, searing deep within his chest. A cold anger forged by years of endurance and quiet. He had once crouched amid the frozen fields of Chosin Reservoir, the cold so brutal it seemed to freeze the soul. He had bent low to repair communication wires under the hiss of mortar fire, knowing his unit's survival depended on each signal he relayed. He risked his life not for glory, but for the men beside him, for the flag he believed in. Yet this morning, on his own peaceful hometown street, he was shoved down like a useless old man. No one intervened. No voice cried out. Slowly, he sat up, the warmth of leaking blood through his khaki pants strangely familiar. The fall did not weaken him. It reminded him who he was. He had stared down death itself. Today's humiliation would not bury him. Nearby, the apple pie lay battered, but still fragrant, still carrying the taste Eleanor baked into every Thanksgiving. He lifted it tenderly, as though handling something sacred. The crumpled paper bag rustled like the sigh of memory. He shuffled to a bench by the bus stop. No one watched, and he did not need them to. His back remained straight, though his legs trembled. He lowered himself gently, as if wary the bench might sense his indignation. His hand slipped into the coat pocket. There lay the old flip phone, its plastic scratched, the hinge loose. The corner of the screen was cracked, the backlight dim, yet it still displayed the familiar name. Hawk 3. Only one contact. Only one man he trusted enough to call now. Hawk 3. His son Nathan Carver's military code name. A colonel. A Special Forces commander, a soldier still on the front lines while Sam had retreated years ago. They rarely spoke. They needed no words. Between two men who had survived war, a glance or a signal sufficed. But today, Sam needed more. His finger pressed the navigation key, then slowly hit call. 1 beat, 2 beats. His heart pounded slow and deep. Perhaps Nathan was busy. Perhaps he should not intrude. But he did not call out of pain. He called out of something deeper, an injustice forgotten. The call connected. He did not speak immediately. He paused, listening to static crackle, machinery voices from some distant outpost. A mechanical voice answered. Secure channel. Confirmation code? Sam inhaled. Alpha Tango 7. Urgent report from Carver Sr. His voice was calm, measured, as if he had never fallen, as if he were still that communications technician of old. The network authenticated, a soft click as the channel switched. Brief silence. Then his son's voice came, crisp, direct. Dad? Sam did not reply at once. He glanced toward the broken spur bar. The bikers remained, laughing, still lost in smug indifference. Claw leaned against his bike, as if he had never touched Sam. No sign betrayed what had just occurred. But inside Sam, something had broken. You once asked me what a soldier's final limit was, he said slowly, each word etched like stone. Today, I found mine. Silence on the other end. Then Nathan asked, softly but clearly, Are you hurt? Sam looked down at his pants. The blood stain seeped through the fabric, but he shook his head. Not serious, but my honor is. He needed no more explanation. Nathan would understand, just as Sam once understood. When comrades met eyes in the crucible of battle, words were unnecessary. Only truth mattered. Are you in Montana? Sam asked. I'll dispatch someone to check on you, Nathan replied. Moments later, Sam heard keystrokes, then radio chatter woven into the line. Orders were transmitting, not for revenge, but to restore truth to its rightful place. The call ended. Sam folded the phone. His hand rested on the crumpled pie bag. Though its contents were no longer intact, he held it tightly, as if clutching memory itself, the last gift Eleanor left him. He remained seated, silent, waiting, not for retaliation, but for something right. An apology, an acknowledging glance, a spark of justice in a world grown too accustomed to indifference. For there are times when a soldier needs not a weapon, but to be seen, to be recognized, and to be treated as human, no matter if he is but an old man with a broken apple pie in his hand. The call ended with a soft click. No response followed. No ringing echoed back. Only silence. A silence heavy with the weight of a decision. Sam folded the flip phone closed. He carefully slipped it back into his coat pocket. His hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from old memories rushing in, like a cold wind blowing through scars that had never fully healed. He sat motionless. Not a muscle stirred. He stared straight at the broken spur bar, where Claw and his biker gang carried on loudly, carefree as if nothing had happened, mocking, slapping each other on the back, raising their glasses, as though humiliating an old man in public were merely a joke, one nobody intervened to stop, one nobody dared speak against. Sam no longer felt pain in his hip. It had transformed into a steady throb, an unrelenting reminder that he was still alive, and still feeling that shame. A few passers-by stole glances his way. They lingered at a distance, as if afraid of involvement. They saw an old man sitting unmoving on a bench, blood seeping through his knee, a crushed apple pie in his hand, and an almost unsettling calm in his eyes. No one dared approach. No one offered aid. Only sympathetic looks flickered before disappearing, as if, by not witnessing it, it had never occurred. Then, from afar, a low, resonant sound arose. At first, only Sam perceived it, a heavy, steady thumping drifting from the horizon. His ears, honed among military engines, recognized it immediately. It was not a truck, not a train. It was the sound of power, the sound of a return, the sound of something the bikers had never heard up close before. The sound intensified, deliberate, each beat striking like a blow to the chest. The wind shifted. Glasses on the broken Spurs patio quivered. A few bikers stood up, bewildered. They looked skyward. And then they saw it. A UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter, its familiar lines painted in cold gray, its rotors churning heavy gusts, tore through the sky, descending. Its roar drowned out horns, bar music, even the bikers' laughter. No one uttered a word. No one grabbed their phones before it hovered over the empty lot beside the bar. Shortly after, a black SUV skidded to a stop at the entrance. Its plates were non-state, non-civilian. In an instant, the door swung open. 4 men emerged, no words spoken, no display of force needed. Clad in ash-gray tactical gear, wearing body armor, headsets snug on their skulls. Their eyes swept the crowd with icy precision. They did not draw weapons, yet every movement conveyed a clear message. We have come not to negotiate. The rear hatch of the helicopter opened. One figure stepped down, tall, erect, each step striking the earth like a drum. Colonel Nathan Carver. His flight suit fitted, unit insignia on his left shoulder. His face set like steel, his gaze piercing like a spear. He needed no briefing. He knew exactly where his father was. The crowd parted instinctively as Nathan approached the bench. Sam remained seated. He did not rise, yet his spine straightened, not from pride, but because he had nothing to prove to his son. Nathan paused before him. He gazed at Sam for a long moment, then unexpectedly knelt, level with his eyes. The gesture silenced onlookers. No one understood what was happening. But they saw a senior officer bowing before an old man in a ragged coat, and every calculation of power in their minds instantly rewrote itself. Sam spoke little, just a few words, slow, clear, his voice carrying the weight of a mountain. Nathan listened. He asked no questions, no confirmation needed. He merely nodded. Then Nathan turned. His eyes, when fixed on Claw, were no longer those of a son. They were the eyes of a commander, cold, direct. Claw, standing not far off, began to back away, as though instinct compelled him toward darkness. But it was too late. The tactical team flowed out like water, no verbal commands issued. They encircled the bikers with ruthless precision. No one drew firearms, yet nobody dared move. A few bikers opened their mouths to laugh, but their smiles died under the soldiers' steely gaze. Local police arrived, sirens wailing, then ground to a halt. No officer dared advance. Before them unfolded an operation, by the book, by the numbers, by necessity. No shouting required, no proof demanded, only the presence of an order this place had long forgotten. And Sam, still seated, his fingers gently gripping the torn pie bag, his eyes closing softly, not to avoid, but to hold on to this moment, a moment in which, without speaking, he was heard. And without fighting back, he stood tall, uplifted by the silent force of justice. Dear viewers, take a moment to relax or sip some water before the next surprising twist. And please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always thrilling to see someone join us from every corner of the globe. Comment 1. If you enjoyed this story, so we can continue bringing you more great tales. News spread faster than anyone could have predicted. Hastily filmed phone videos, the ear-splitting roar of the Black Hawk helicopter, the image of the officer stepping from the shadows, and the chilling moment he faced down Claw, flooded social media platforms within hours. No caption could capture it all, yet the very silence in the footage moved viewers deeply. Hashtags Missoula Justice and #Veteran Honor multiplied by the minute. They wound their way from small community groups to major news sites. People could not look away from the image of a father sitting motionless on a bench, blood seeping through his trousers, clutching a shattered apple pie, and the son kneeling before him beneath the hush of an entire city. Public outcry surged. Everyone began to dig into the records. Sam Carver, a name once blurred in local reports, now emerged with full depth and gravity. A communications specialist who once risked his life to keep signals alive on the razor's edge at Chosin Reservoir. A man awarded the Silver Star for saving an entire company from destruction. His military dossier, long gathering dust in silent steel filing cabinets, stood now as living proof of courage that had been forgotten. National media descended upon Missoula. Satellite trucks lined the sidewalks. Reporters jostled for every account from nearby residents. They asked about the old gentleman who walked each dawn with a bag of pie, about his ever-quiet gaze and courteous nod. And for the first time in years, people truly saw him, not as a lonely old man, but as an icon, a living testament to a generation that gave everything to protect today's peace. 1 week later, a ceremony took place at Missoula's Central Square. Attendance was voluntary, yet people streamed in, each step guided by something greater than themselves. School children in uniforms waved small flags, adults carried flowers, and most poignant of all, veterans in faded VFW caps, medals on their chests, stood in silent rows like pillars of memory. On a makeshift stage, Sam sat among the honored guests. His suit was simple, no medals, no insignia, but his bearing commanded silence. Not out of awe, but because he carried an unspoken weight that only those who'd traded youth for service could understand. Nathan, in his crisp uniform, stood at his side. He offered no lengthy oration, nor did he recount what everyone already knew. His calm, decisive tone, each word distilled from the heart, rang out. We may not recall every name of those who sacrificed, but we must remember why they sacrificed. Remember how they lived, how they endured in silence, and how they faced injustice without losing their dignity. The audience did not applaud at once. Some wiped tears, others bowed their heads, but all remained hushed. The mayor approached. She held a newly carved wooden plaque. Carver Grove. Her voice caught as she announced that a corner of the park beside the Clark Fork River would forever bear his name. An emblem of gratitude to Sam and to all veterans who silently safeguarded this nation with their blood, their sweat, and years unseen by most. Sam said nothing. When his name was called, he merely nodded. Neither smile nor tears appeared, only his eyes sweeping the crowd, where he found unknown faces filled with understanding. He caught sight of a child looking at him as if he were something truly significant. A fellow veteran below the stage nodded back, eyes misting, and in that moment, amid the gradually rising applause, Sam felt something profound he had pursued his entire life. Recognition. Not for a single fall, not for a helicopter's dramatic arrival, but for a lifetime of silence, years of endurance, and a loyalty that never demanded reward. The ceremony concluded. People drifted away. Yet Sam remained seated, leaning slightly forward with his hands clasped on his knees. A breeze stirred his silver hair. He uttered no word. He simply watched the departing crowd, trusting that, perhaps in some corner of this country, justice could still find its way home. And for him, that was enough. A few days after that solemn ceremony, when the headlines began to quiet, a plain brown envelope appeared at Sam's front door. No sender's name, only a rough, handwritten scrawl. To Mr. Sam Carver. He opened it slowly. Inside lay a single sheet of paper, penned in faint black ink, the handwriting unsteady and smudged here and there, as if gripped too tightly. The letter was from Travis Claw Malone, the same man who had shoved him onto the sidewalk not long ago, now behind bars awaiting trial. Claw did not beg for pity. He offered no excuses, no finger-pointing. He simply wrote, one man to another, with the raw honesty of a man confronting himself. In the letter, Claw spoke of his father, a Vietnam veteran who returned home in silence, haunted by nameless demons, a man who rarely spoke, yet whose outbursts of anger, shouted commands, and broken objects in the house had seared Claw's childhood with a warped understanding of the military. From a young age, he learned to fear soldiers, to despise uniforms and discipline, and to believe that true power lay in belittling others. That lesson became his curse throughout adolescence, right up to the fateful day he met Sam. He did not ask for forgiveness. He asked only for a chance to meet face to face, if Sam would agree. Sam folded the letter and said nothing. All afternoon, he neither turned on the TV nor sipped his usual tea. He sat at his table, eyes fixed on empty air, as though weighing something beyond ordinary reason. Forgiveness is the hardest choice after a public humiliation, after being thrust down and abandoned to indifferent stares. Yet the older he grew, the more he understood that some burdens must be laid down, not because the offender deserves mercy, but because he himself needs release. A week later, the meeting took place at Carver Grove, the very patch of land now bearing his name. There was no stage, no cameras, only 2 men and a handful of wooden benches beneath the trees. Sam arrived first. He sat quietly, hands resting on his cane, expression unreadable. When Claw appeared, no leather jacket, no flashy tattoos, just a simple gray outfit and downcast eyes. He looked completely changed. Gone was the swagger of that day. In his place, a man who had endured long, sleepless nights, forced to confront himself with painful honesty. They did not shake hands. No introductions were needed. Both already knew why they were there. Claw began to speak, his voice low, measured, halting. He admitted the shame he felt when his victim's own son stared him down, not with hatred, but with chilling disappointment. He described the haunting nightmares that followed, in which the image of the old man clutching his ruined apple pie emerged in the darkness. He wrote that he had enrolled in therapy, his first acknowledgement that the past could warp and linger like a shadow over those who did not deserve it, and he revealed that he volunteered at the local Veterans Center, washing cups, stacking chairs, and listening each day to older men recount war stories in voices as muted as ashes. Those stories had finally begun to teach him, not just about his father, but about men like Sam. Through it all, Sam said nothing. He merely listened. His eyes did not blink. They narrowed only when Claw mentioned his father. Something surged within him. Not a simple anger or pity, but a bitter empathy for a generation so deeply wounded they forgot how to be fathers. When Claw finished, Sam remained silent for a long moment. Then he leaned back slowly and exhaled, as if releasing all the weight from his chest. He offered no rebuke, no condemnation. He simply studied the man before him with a gaze that had seen both battlefields and the fractures of the human soul. After a while he spoke, his voice hoarse yet clear. "Where do you think respect comes from?" Claw did not answer. He only remained silent. Sam nodded, as though accepting that silence itself was the reply. Then he continued, his tone soft as a passing breeze. "Respect is not found in tattoos or jackets, son. It lies in how you treat others, and in how you make amends when you've been wrong." Those words carried no sermonizing tone, only the gentle reminder of one who has seen both prosperity and defeat, triumph and loss, and chooses to stand again on legs no longer sure. Their conversation ended with a quiet nod. No handshake, no embrace. But from Claw's eyes, for the first time in his life, shone an understanding his father never taught him. That true honor does not dwell in power, but in the willingness to bow to truth. And from Sam, for the first time in many years, emerged a softening toward the man who had knocked him down, because he recognized that one who can rise again and find the right path is no longer the same person. Sam still began each day the same way, his gait slow, the wooden cane tapping in rhythm with his steps. But Missoula had changed. The whole town seemed to breathe anew, something silent, yet undeniable. Gazes in the street no longer slid past him as if he were invisible. Instead, there were respectful nods, sometimes a smile, a simple greeting filled with genuine honor. People recognized him not for any fanfare, but for the quiet he carried, the same quiet that made an entire town pause and reflect. At Mabel's bakery, where he stopped each morning for his familiar apple pie, a new photograph hung by the counter. It showed Sam in his old uniform, standing tall, eyes fixed forward. The picture was unassuming, yet within it lay a lifetime of sacrifice, of endurance, and ultimately, of acknowledgement. Carver Grove, once just a nameless corner of Parkland, had become a gathering place. Children played on the grass, racing around the benches where veterans often sat. Old stories were retold, not to boast, but to preserve memory. No longer fretful war tales, but heartfelt shares of loss, of courage, and of truths never spoken aloud. Sometimes, Claw appeared there too, no longer the man with a taunting glare and coarse voice. He quietly helped tidy the benches, fetched drinks for the elders. When he and Sam crossed paths, they did not speak, only a brief nod. Yet within that nod lay the weight of a long journey. No lingering hatred, no plea for pardon, only a mutual recognition of a painful past and of a present set on healing. One peaceful afternoon, Nathan was home on leave. The father and son sat side by side on the bench by the bus stop, where it all had begun. Sam said nothing. He just gazed toward the park. Children's laughter rang out. Adults conversed in small groups. A community once fractured now pulsed with renewed unity. Nathan glanced at his father. His eyes softened. A fleeting smile passed his lips. Unspoken thanks. "You set the whole town abuzz," he said, not in jest, but as a proud acknowledgement. Sam was quiet for a moment, then inclined his head slightly, his gaze resting on the veterans sitting beneath the trees. "Sometimes," he replied, his voice hoarse and measured, "people just need a reminder of what matters." Sam's story was never about fame, nor about a sensational payback. It was a wake-up call for things long dormant, respect for those who came before, compassion for one who wronged and then sought to make amends, and the solidarity of a community that once overlooked each other's pain. From a fall in the street, he had risen, and for him, that rise was never merely personal. It was a reminder, a lesson, and a legacy, not built of monuments, but of sincere glances and timely hands extended. And that was the truest victory. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always wonderful to see someone tuning in from every corner of the globe. Comment 1 if you found this story compelling, so we can continue bringing you more great tales.